There's a photograph on my desk that I keep face down now. Sometimes, late at night when the markets close and the apartment falls silent, I turn it over and stare at two men who don't exist anymore, one destroyed by his own greed, the other by what he built from the ashes. We're standing on a yacht in the Bahamas, arms around each other's shoulders, champagne glasses raised to a future we thought we'd conquered together. Vincent's smile is wide and genuine. Mine is too. Neither of us knew that within 18 months I would engineer the most elegant financial execution I've ever designed, and he would lose everything he'd stolen from me. Not just the money, not just the company, everything. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. They're wrong. Revenge is an algorithm, precise, patient, and utterly merciless. And I am very, very good at building algorithms. But I'm getting ahead of myself. You need to understand who we were before I can show you what we became. I met Vincent Taylor on the first day of our quantitative finance program at MIT, August 2014. I was 22, fresh out of undergrad at Berkeley, and absolutely terrified I'd made a mistake. The room was full of people who looked like they'd been coding since they were in diapers, hoodie-wearing prodigies who probably dreamed in Python. I'd fought my way through every math and computer science class, staying up until 3 in the morning to understand concepts that seemed to come naturally to everyone else. Vincent sat down next to me in the orientation session, took one look at my laptop, covered in coffee stains and held together with duct tape, and laughed. "That thing looks like it survived a war," he said. "2 years of undergrad thesis work," I replied. "It's earned its battle scars." He extended his hand. "Vincent Taylor, and before you ask, no, I'm not related to any of the finance Taylors. Just a kid from Phoenix whose dad taught high school math, Ethan Ward. And my dad was a mechanic in Sacramento. I think we're going to be the diversity cases in a room full of hedge fund kids." That made him laugh harder. "Want to form an alliance? 2 regular guys against the finance bros?" Deal. I didn't know it then, but that handshake would define the next decade of my life in ways I couldn't possibly imagine. The program was brutal. We were learning to build quantitative trading models, complex mathematical algorithms that could analyze market patterns, predict price movements, and execute trades faster than any human could think. The coursework combined advanced mathematics, computer science, financial theory, and statistics into a pressure cooker that crushed people weekly. By October, our cohort of 45 had dropped to 32. Vincent and I survived by becoming inseparable. We'd meet at the library at 6 every morning, work through problem sets until classes started at 9, attend lectures until 5, then head back to the lab to code until midnight. On weekends, we'd grab cheap Chinese food and work on projects at his apartment or mine. His coding style was aggressive and intuitive. He'd hack together solutions through sheer creativity. Mine was methodical and precise. I'd build frameworks that were rock solid, but took longer to develop. "You're like the defensive coordinator," Vincent said one night, watching me debug a trading algorithm for the 3rd hour. "You build systems that can't fail. I'm the quarterback calling audibles." "That metaphor only works if we're on the same team," I pointed out. "We are on the same team, man. That's the whole point." And I believed him. God, I believed him completely. Our partnership worked because we filled each other's gaps. Vincent could see patterns in market data that I'd miss. He had this instinctive feel for momentum and trend shifts. I could build the infrastructure to test and validate his insights, turning hunches into rigorous, profitable strategies. By our second year, we were dominating every competition, every project. Our professors started using our work as examples, but more than the academic success, Vincent became my brother. The kind of friend you call at 3 in the morning when your mum has a health scare. The guy who shows up with beer and pizza when your girlfriend dumps you. The person who knows your dreams and fears better than you know them yourself. In spring of 2016, my father died. Heart attack, sudden, devastating. Vincent flew back to Sacramento with me, sat with me through the funeral, helped me sort through decades of my dad's tools and belongings in that garage where I'd grown up watching him fix cars. He didn't say much. Vincent wasn't good with emotional speeches, but he was there. Solid, present, real. Your dad would be proud of you, he said, as we drove back to Boston. Mine keeps asking when I'm going to get a real job instead of playing with computers. This is a real job. We're building something that matters. I know that. You know that. But try explaining algorithmic trading to a man who thinks Excel is advanced technology. He glanced over at me. You okay, Ethan? Really okay? I will be, I said. Having you here helps. That's what brothers do. Brothers? That's what we called each other. That's what I thought we were. We graduated in May 2016 with job offers from every major quantitative hedge fund on Wall Street, Goldman Sachs, Renaissance Technologies, Two Sigma, Citadel, all the names that made finance majors salivate. Vincent got an offer from Bridgewater Associates for $180,000 plus bonus. I got an offer from D.E. Shaw for $195,000. We turned them all down. Why make other people rich? Vincent said over beers the night we sent our rejection emails. We're as smart as anyone at those firms, smarter than most. We should build our own fund. With what capital? I asked. We have maybe 40,000 between us. We start small, build a track record, raise money as we prove the models work. He leaned forward. That electric intensity in his eyes that I'd learned meant he was onto something. Think about it, Ethan. We've been building algorithms for 2 years that beat the market consistently. We understand market microstructure better than people who've been doing this for decades. We're young, we're hungry, and we have no families or mortgages tying us down. When will we ever have a better chance? He was right. The logical part of my brain knew it was risky. Most quantitative funds failed within 3 years. But the ambitious part, the part that had clawed its way from a garage in Sacramento to an MIT master's degree, wanted to try. Okay, I said, let's build something. We called it Apex Quantitative Capital, registered as an LLC, built our trading infrastructure in Vincent's apartment, started with our combined $43,000. The first 6 months were absolutely terrifying. We'd built a mean reversion strategy that identified stocks that had moved too far from their historical averages and bet on them returning to normal. It worked beautifully in backtesting. In real trading, we lost $8,000 in the first month. We're missing something, I said, staring at the screens at 2 in the morning. The execution costs are higher than we modeled. The slippage is killing us. Vincent came to look over my shoulder. Can you build a smarter execution algorithm, something that doesn't just dump orders into the market? Maybe. Give me a week. I spent the next 7 days rebuilding our entire order execution system from scratch. Instead of placing large orders that moved the market against us, I designed an algorithm that would slice orders into tiny pieces, distribute them across multiple exchanges, and camouflage our activity in the normal flow of market noise. It was technically beautiful, a system that thought and adapted in microseconds. It worked. By month 8, we were profitable. By month 12, we'd turned our 43,000 into 96,000. By month 18, we were managing over $500,000, mostly from friends, family, and a few small investors who'd heard about our returns. Vincent handled the investor relations and business development, and I handled the technology and model development. It was the perfect partnership. When we celebrated our second anniversary, we'd grown the fund to $2.3 million under management and were generating consistent returns of 2 to 3% per month. We should hire someone, Vincent said. We're turning away investors because we can't handle the volume. Who? Someone who can handle the operations and compliance stuff. Free us up to focus on what we're good at, building and trading. We hired Sophia Chen in January 2019. She was 26, had worked in operations at Fidelity, and interviewed with a competence that impressed both of us. She asked detailed questions about our strategies, our risk management, our disaster recovery plans. She understood the regulatory requirements for investment advisors and could implement them efficiently. She's perfect, Vincent said after her third interview. Smart, organized, and she actually understands what we do. Agreed. Let's bring her on. Sophia started in February. Within 2 months, she'd reorganized our entire back office, implemented proper compliance procedures, and set up systems that let us scale efficiently. She was also beautiful, dark hair, sharp cheekbones, eyes that seemed to notice everything, but I tried not to think about that. We had a professional relationship. She worked for our fund. Getting involved would be complicated and stupid. I failed at not thinking about it by April. We were working late on a particularly volatile trading day. The markets had swung wildly on some Federal Reserve announcement, and our algorithms were behaving strangely. Sophia brought coffee to the trading desk at 9 p.m., stayed to watch us troubleshoot, ask questions that were actually insightful. Your risk limits saved you, she observed. Without them, this volatility would have triggered massive losses. Ethan built those limits, Vincent said. He's paranoid about worst-case scenarios. That's not paranoia, Sophia replied. That's survival instinct. She looked at me when she said it, and something passed between us. A recognition, a connection. I felt my face get warm and looked back at my screens. I should go home, she said. But if you need anything, call me. After she left, Vincent grinned at me. Dude, she's into you. She's an employee. We're not doing this. Why not? We're all adults, as long as it doesn't affect the business. It always affects the business. You know that. Fine. But you're an idiot if you let her get away. I tried to maintain professional boundaries. I really did. But over the next few months, Sophia and I kept finding ourselves alone together, staying late to finish projects, grabbing lunch, to discuss operations, working on weekends when Vincent was meeting with investors. The conversations started professional and drifted personal. I learned she'd grown up in Boston, studied economics at Boston University, loved classical music and terrible reality TV in equal measure. She learned I'd taught myself to code at 14, still had nightmares about my father's death, and harbored a secret addiction to science fiction novels. By July, we were dating. By September, she'd moved into my apartment. By December, I was in love at a way I'd never experienced before. Sophia understood me. She appreciated my methodical nature instead of being frustrated by it. She'd leave notes on my computer, reminding me to eat when I got lost in code. She'd wake me from nightmares about failed trades with soft words and patient understanding. She made me laugh. She made me feel like the person I was trying to become, instead of the insecure kid from Sacramento I sometimes still felt like inside. I think I might marry her, I told Vincent one night in January 2020. We were sitting in our new office. We'd finally moved out of Vincent's apartment into a proper space in downtown Boston, celebrating another record month. 22% returns, assets under management approaching $15 million. Vincent smiled. "Oh, she's great, man. I'm happy for you." "Thanks, that means a lot." "Just make sure you sign a prenup," he joked. "Half of Apex would be a hell of a divorce settlement." I laughed it off, but something about the comment bothered me. Not the content, it was clearly a joke, but the way he said it. A slight edge I'd never heard before, but it was gone so quickly I decided I'd imagined it. The fund continued growing through 2020 despite the COVID pandemic. While the markets crashed in March, our algorithms adapted beautifully. We'd built in volatility controls that actually perform better during chaotic conditions. By the end of the year, we were managing $31 million and had generated 47% returns for our investors. Vincent and I each took home over $800,000 that year. Sophia got a substantial bonus. We were successful beyond anything we'd imagined when we started with $43,000 4 years earlier. "We should expand," Vincent said at our year-end planning meeting. "Hire more developers, build more strategies, raise institutional capital." "That changes the business model," I said. "We need to take on operational complexity, regulatory oversight, infrastructure costs. And we'd make 10 times what we're making now. Come on, Ethan. We can't stay boutique forever. We've proven the models work. Now we scale." Sophia sided with Vincent. "He's right. We're turning away investors every week because we're at capacity. The infrastructure can handle more volume. We should capitalize on the track record while it's hot." I looked between them. "Okay, but we do this carefully. No shortcuts on risk management or compliance. We scale responsibly." "Of course," Vincent said. "That's why we have you. You're the brake that keeps us from flying off the track." We started 2021 with ambitious plans. We hired 2 developers, brought on a second operations person, began courting institutional investors. Vincent took the lead on fundraising while I focused on building new trading strategies. Sophia managed the expanding operations and worked closely with Vincent on investor presentations. They spent a lot of time together, business lunches, strategy meetings, late nights preparing pitch materials. I told myself it was natural. They were handling the same projects while I was buried in code. Vincent was my best friend and business partner. Sophia was the woman I loved and planned to marry. Trust was the foundation of both relationships, but small things started bothering me. The way Sophia would glance at her phone and smile, then quickly put it away when I asked who was texting. The inside jokes between her and Vincent that I wasn't part of. The fact that they'd sometimes stop talking when I entered the room, like I'd interrupted something private. Am I crazy? I asked my sister Emma during a video call in March. Or is there something weird happening at work? Weird how? I don't know. Vincent and Sophia are spending a lot of time together, probably just business, but I don't know. Do you trust them? Yes, absolutely. Vincent's my brother. She's everything. Then you're probably just stressed. You've been working insane hours. When's the last time you and Sophia went on an actual date? She was right. I'd been putting in 16-hour days building new algorithms. I'd been neglecting Sophia, taking her for granted. I planned a weekend trip to Vermont, just the two of us. No work, no stress. Sophia seemed excited about it, but the morning we were supposed to leave, she got a terrible migraine. "I'm so sorry," she said, clearly in pain. "I don't think I can do the drive. Can we reschedule?" "Of course. Let me take care of you." "No, you should go anyway. Clear your head. You need the break." "I'm not going without you." "Please, Ethan. I feel guilty enough ruining our plans. At least one of us should enjoy the cabin. Vincent mentioned he might want to check it out anyway. You guys could turn it into a planning retreat." The suggestion felt strange, but her migraine was obviously real. "Okay, I'll see if he wants to come." Vincent jumped at the idea. We drove up Friday afternoon, spent the weekend hiking and talking strategy. It should have been relaxing. Instead, I felt uneasy the entire time. Vincent seemed distracted, checking his phone constantly. "Everything okay?" I asked. Saturday evening as we sat by the fire. "Yeah, just some investor stuff, nothing urgent." He put his phone down. "How are things with you and Sophia?" "Good. Great. I'm thinking about proposing soon." "Yeah?" He stared into the fire. "You sure you want to move that fast?" "We've been together almost 2 years when you know you know." "I guess." He was quiet for a long moment. "Just make sure you're seeing the real person, you know. People can be different than what you think they are." "What does that mean?" "Nothing. General observation. Marriage is a big step." The comment stayed with me. It felt loaded with meaning I couldn't decipher. We returned Sunday night. Sophia's migraine had cleared, and she seemed happy to see me, but there was something different in the way she kissed me. A hesitation, a distance. "How was the cabin?" she asked. "Good. You would have loved it. We should go back together." "Definitely." But we never did. April brought our biggest fundraise yet. A $50 million commitment from a pension fund. Vincent had been working on the deal for months, and when it closed, we celebrated with champagne in the office. We were now managing over $80 million. We'd made it. We were a real fund, a serious player in the quantitative trading space. "Oh, partnership," Vincent said, raising his glass. "We built this together, and we're just getting started." "To partnership," I echoed. Sophia stood between us, smiling, but something in her eyes looked sad. I caught her gaze, and she looked away quickly. That night, lying in bed, I tried to initiate sex for the first time in weeks. Sophia pulled away gently. "I'm tired, Ethan. Long day." "We haven't been intimate in almost a month." "I know, I'm sorry. Work has been stressful." Is something wrong with us? She was quiet for a long time. No, everything's fine. I just need some sleep. But everything wasn't fine. Over the next few weeks, Sophia became increasingly distant. She'd stay late at the office, come home after I was asleep, be gone before I woke up. When we were together, she seemed preoccupied, guilty, unhappy. I tried talking to her about it, but she insisted everything was okay. She was just stressed about the fund's growth. I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. So I pushed my doubts aside and focused on work. In May, we hired a chief compliance officer, a requirement from the pension fund. The CCO, a meticulous woman named Patricia Rodriguez, started reviewing our operations and procedures. 3 weeks into her tenure, she came to my office with a concerned expression. We needed to talk about some discrepancies I've found in the expense reports, she said. What kind of discrepancies? She laid out a spreadsheet. These dinner expenses, they're being charged to the fund, but they're only attended by Vincent and Sophia. No investors, no business purpose documented. I looked at the dates. Dozens of dinners over the past 6 months, expensive restaurants, just the two of them. Maybe they were meeting investors informally, I said, my mouth dry. Not according to the CRM system, and there's this. She pulled up another report. Hotel expenses, Boston hotels charged to the fund, booked under Vincent's name. Same dates Sophia was marking late nights in the office on her calendar. The office started spinning. These have to be mistakes. Patricia's face was sympathetic, but firm. I've been doing this for 20 years, Ethan. These aren't mistakes. I'm required to report this to the board. Since there is no board besides you and Vincent, I'm reporting it to you. What you do with the information is your decision. After she left, I sat, staring at those reports for an hour. My hands were shaking. My best friend, the woman I loved, hotel rooms, dinners, months of lies. I wanted to storm into Vincent's office, demand explanations, scream and break things, but that wasn't who I was. I was methodical. I needed to understand the full picture before I acted. I spent the next week conducting my own investigation. I accessed our server logs and found encrypted messages between Vincent's and Sophia's work accounts, thousands of them sent during work hours, after hours, weekends. I couldn't decrypt them without alerting them, but the volume alone told a story. I checked our security camera footage. I watched Sophia enter Vincent's office, close the door, not emerge for hours. I watched them leave the building together when they thought no one was watching. I watched Vincent's hand on the small of her back in a way that was far too familiar. I checked our financial systems. Vincent had been moving money out of the fund's operating account into a separate LLC he'd created. Small amounts at first, then larger ones. Over $400,000 total. I traced the LLC. It was registered under a shell company, but Vincent was the beneficial owner. He wasn't just sleeping with my girlfriend. He was stealing from the fund we'd built together. I felt like someone had hollowed out my chest and filled it with ice. Every memory of our friendship recontextualized itself. Every moment with Sophia became a question. How long had this been happening? Had she ever actually loved me? Had Vincent ever actually been my brother? I needed proof. Couldn't deny. Something definitive. I installed a keylogger on Vincent's work computer, technically illegal, morally questionable, but I was beyond caring about rules. Within 3 days, I had his email password. I logged into his personal email from home. The emails went back 8 months, to September 2020. They'd been together longer than Sophia and I had been serious. I read every message, every lie, every moment they'd shared while pretending to be loyal to me. Vincent talking about how I was too rigid, too careful, holding back the fund's potential. Sophia saying she felt trapped, that being with me felt like a mistake, that she'd never felt with me what she felt with him. Them planning a future together where they'd push me out of the company, take control of Apex, build it into something bigger without my limitations. There was a message from 3 weeks earlier. Vincent, the pension fund deal went through. We're at $80 million AUM. Once we hit $100 million, we make our move. Tell
Ethan, you need space. Move out gradually. I'll start building the legal case for a restructuring that gives us control. By August, we'll own Apex and he'll be gone. Sophia, I feel terrible doing this to him. He's a good person. Vincent, he's a brilliant coder but a mediocre leader. We'll be doing the fund a favor and you and I will finally be together for real. No more hiding. Sophia, I love you. Vincent, I love you too. Just a few more months of pretending. I read that exchange 10 times, then 20. Then I stopped counting. The betrayal was so complete, so total, that I couldn't process it emotionally. My brain just shut down the feeling parts and went analytical. I had data, I had evidence, I had a problem to solve. I called in sick the next day. Sophia asked if I was okay. I said I had food poisoning and needed to rest. She seemed relieved and practically ran out the door to the office. To him. I sat in our apartment, the apartment she'd moved into where we'd
talked about marriage and children and growing old together, and I built a plan. Revenge isn't about anger. Anger is hot, impulsive, stupid. Revenge is mathematics. You identify your objectives, inventory your resources, model the optimal sequence of actions, and execute with precision. My objectives were clear. Remove Vincent from Apex. Quantitative capital. Ensure he faced legal consequences for embezzlement. Expose his relationship with Sophia. Destroy his reputation in the quantitative finance industry. Make sure he never worked in finance again. But I couldn't just act impulsively. Vincent was smart. If I confronted him directly, he'd lawyer up, tie everything in litigation, probably spin the narrative to make me look unstable. I needed to be smarter than that. I needed to build a perfect trap. I spent the next week pretending everything was normal, going to work, smiling at Vincent, kissing Sophia goodbye in the mornings. Every interaction felt like acid in my throat, but I kept my face neutral and friendly. I was good at building systems that required patience and precision. This was just another algorithm. Step 1. I documented everything. I created encrypted backups of all evidence, the emails, the expense reports, the financial transfers, the server logs, the security camera footage. I stored copies in 3 separate cloud services under anonymous accounts. No matter what Vincent did, the evidence would exist. Step 2. I quietly consulted with a securities attorney who specialized in investment advisor fraud. I presented the case as a hypothetical scenario for a friend's fund. The attorney was clear. The embezzlement was criminal. The commingling of personal and fund assets violated fiduciary duty. If reported properly, Vincent would face both civil and criminal penalties. Your friend should document everything, report to the SEC, and cooperate fully with the investigation, the attorney advised. The person who reports first usually gets the best treatment. And if there are business partnership issues too, separate issue. If they're 50-50 partners, it gets messy. Better to have a clear legal case for removal before triggering partnership dissolution. Step 3. I modified our partnership agreement. We'd never formalized our governance structure properly. We'd been so focused on building the fund that we'd neglected the legal framework. I drafted an amendment that gave me sole authority over compliance and risk management decisions, with the power to suspend partners for violations. I buried it in a larger package of corporate governance updates and sent it to Vincent with a note. Patricia is requiring these updates for the pension fund compliance. Can you review and sign? Mostly administrative stuff. He signed it without reading, trusting his best friend. Step 4. I built a new trading algorithm, not for the fund, for myself. Using the market analysis tools I developed, I created a personal trading strategy that would generate income independent of Apex. I funded it with my savings, about $200,000, and ran it in a separate brokerage account. Within 3 weeks, it was generating $15,000 to $20,000 per week. I'd need independent income when everything fell apart. Step 5. I transferred my equity in Apex to a trust. I worked with an estate planning attorney to create a structure where my ownership shares were held by an irrevocable trust with me as beneficiary. This protected my stake from Vincent's inevitable legal maneuvers and gave me tax advantages. Vincent would need my signature to force me out, and I made sure that wouldn't happen. By mid-June, I was ready, but I didn't pull the trigger yet. I wanted maximum impact, maximum destruction. I needed Vincent to feel secure, confident, comfortable, and then I'd take everything from him at once. I started acting more withdrawn at home. When Sophia asked what was wrong, I said I was stressed about the fund's growth and needed space to think. She looked relieved. Guilty, but relieved. She moved into the guest bedroom temporarily. I knew she was planning to leave entirely. I didn't care anymore. At work, I started deferring to Vincent on decisions I'd normally fight about. He wanted to take on more leverage in our trading strategies. Sure, sounds great. He wanted to hire his friend's nephew for a development role despite weak qualifications. Absolutely, whatever you think is best. Vincent started to relax around me. He thought he was winning. He thought I was becoming passive, easier to control. In his emails to Sophia, he started talking about moving up their timeline. Ethan's checking out mentally, he wrote. This might be easier than we thought. Perfect. I spent evenings and weekends building what I called the prosecution package. It was a 200-page document with appendices that laid out Vincent's crimes in excruciating detail. Timeline of embezzlement, screenshots of every fraudulent transaction, copies of emails discussing the theft, analysis showing how he'd violated his fiduciary duty to investors, expert declarations from forensic accountants I'd quietly hired. The document was devastating. It was the kind of case that SEC investigators dream about. Clear evidence, detailed documentation, a suspect who'd been stupid enough to put everything in writing, but I wasn't ready to send it yet. I wanted to add one more element: social destruction. I created a comprehensive dossier on Vincent's affair with Sophia. Not just the emails, I included security camera footage, credit card receipts from romantic restaurants and hotels, text messages I'd recovered from backup files. I cross-referenced dates when Vincent told me he was meeting investors against dates when he was actually with Sophia. I documented every lie. I didn't do this because I cared about the affair itself anymore. I did it because Vincent's reputation in the finance world was built on being the good guy, ethical, trustworthy, someone who'd never compromise his integrity. I wanted to destroy that image so thoroughly that even if he somehow escaped legal consequences, he'd be unemployable. July 4th weekend, Sophia told me she wanted to visit her parents alone. "I need some space to think about us," she said. "Okay," I replied. "Take all the time you need." She looked at me with something that might have been pity. "I'm sorry, Ethan. You deserve better than this." "Than what?" Than the way I've been, the distance. I know I haven't been fair to you." "No," I said quietly. "You haven't." She left that afternoon. I checked her location on Find My Friends. We'd shared locations when we first started dating, and she'd never turned it off. She drove directly to Vincent's apartment in Somerville. I watched the blue dots sit there all weekend, the woman I'd loved in my best friend's bed. I felt nothing. The part of me that could feel heartbreak had calcified into something harder. On July 7th, I sent the prosecution package to the SEC's Enforcement Division. I sent copies to the Massachusetts Securities Division and to the FBI's White-Collar Crime Unit. I included a cover letter stating I was the co-founder of Apex Quantitative Capital. I'd discovered evidence of embezzlement by my partner, and I was fulfilling my legal and ethical obligations by reporting it. I also sent the package to Patricia Rodriguez, our CCO, with instructions to freeze Vincent's access to the fund's bank accounts immediately under the authority I'd secured in the amended partnership agreement. Then I waited. The SEC investigators called me on July 9th. 2 agents, one named Morrison, one named Chen. They wanted to interview me in person. We met at a coffee shop in Cambridge. "Mr. Ward," Morrison said, "this is one of the most thorough whistleblower submissions we've received in years. Walk us through how you discovered the fraud." I did. I was calm, factual, comprehensive. I showed them everything. They took notes for 3 hours. "What's your relationship with Mr. Taylor outside of business?" Chen asked. "He was my best friend. We met at MIT. We built Apex together. I trusted him completely." Was? Past tense. Now he's a criminal who stole from our investors and violated every principle we claimed to stand for. "And Ms. Chen, your operations manager? What about her?" Morrison consulted his notes. "Your documentation includes evidence of an affair between Taylor and Chen. That seems tangential to the financial crimes." "It's not tangential. It goes to motive. Vincent wasn't just stealing from the fund. He was planning to force me out and take control. The affair gave him personal motivation, and Sophia gave him insider access to our operational systems. They were working together." Chen nodded slowly. "We'll need to interview both of them. Are you willing to testify if this goes to trial?" "Absolutely." "You understand this will destroy your fund. Investors will pull their money. Your reputation will take a hit by association. You could have handled this privately, forced Vincent out quietly. Why go public?" I met his eyes. Because he didn't just steal from me. He stole from teachers and firefighters and nurses whose pensions are invested in our fund. Those people trust us to protect their retirements. Vincent betrayed that trust. He needs to face the full consequences. It was true, but it also sounded good, noble. The investigators ate it up. They moved fast. On July 12th, they showed up at Apex's office with search warrants. Sophia called me in a panic. "Ethan, the SEC is here. They're seizing computers. They want to talk to me and Vincent. What's happening?" "I don't know," I lied. "Cooperate fully. Don't say anything without a lawyer." "Do you know what this is about?" "No idea. Let me make some calls." I hung up and went back to work. I was building a new algorithm, something completely unrelated to Apex. My personal trading strategy had now generated over $100,000 in profits. I'd be fine financially. Vincent called an hour later. "Ethan, we have a serious problem. The SEC thinks I embezzled from the fund." "What? That's insane. Why would they think that?" "I don't know. Someone must have made a complaint. Listen, I need you to back me up. Tell them this is a misunderstanding. The money I moved was for legitimate business purposes." "What money?" Silence. There were some operational expenses that I categorized wrong. "It looks bad, but it's not what they think." "Vincent, what did you do?" "Nothing. This is a witch hunt. I need my partner supporting me, not questioning me." "I'll review the records and give an honest assessment to the investigators." "That's not what I—" "Ethan, whose side are you on?" "I'm on the side of our investors. If you did something wrong, you need to own it. If you didn't, the investigation will clear you." "You son of a bitch. You reported me, didn't you?" "I have no idea what you're talking about." "Bullshit. You've been for weeks. Distant, cold. This is you, isn't it?" "Vincent, if you're in trouble, that's because of your own actions, not mine." He hung up. 5 minutes later, Sophia called. "Did you report Vincent to the SEC?" "Why would you ask me that?" "Because he thinks you did. Because the evidence they're looking at is incredibly detailed. The kind of detail that would require insider knowledge." "Are you asking me as my girlfriend or as someone who's been sleeping with my business partner for the past 10 months? The silence on the other end was absolute. "Ethan." "I know about the affair, Sophia. I've known for weeks. I know about the plan to push me out. I know about the hotels and the lies and every conversation where you and Vincent talked about what a burden I was." "Oh my God." Her voice was barely a whisper. "Ethan, I'm so sorry. Don't. Just don't. You made your choices. Now you get to live with the consequences. Please, can we talk about this?" "No, we're—"
"Done. Pack your things and get out of my apartment. I'll have the locks changed tomorrow." "Ethan, please, I know I hurt you, but—" "You didn't hurt me, Sophia. You destroyed something I thought was real. There's a difference. And Vincent didn't just betray our friendship. He committed federal crimes. The SEC has evidence of embezzlement, wire fraud, and breach of fiduciary duty. If you helped him, you're going to face consequences too." "I didn't know about the money. I swear I didn't know." "But you knew about the plan to force me out. You knew about the restructuring scheme. That's conspiracy. The SEC will want to know what role you played." "I need a lawyer." "Yes, you do." I hung up. My hands were shaking, but my voice had been steady, controlled. I'd delivered the information she needed to know and nothing more. Over the next week, everything unraveled exactly as I'd planned. The SEC investigation became public. The Boston Globe ran a story. MIT grads quantitative fund
raided in embezzlement probe. Investors started pulling money immediately. Our $80 million under management dropped to $45 million in 3 days. Vincent hired a criminal defense attorney who specialized in white-collar cases. Expensive. He was burning through his personal savings trying to stay out of prison. Sophia moved out of my apartment while I was at work. She left her key on the kitchen counter with a note. "I'm sorry for everything. I know that doesn't mean anything now, but it's true. You deserved better." I threw the note away without finishing it. Patricia Rodriguez called the emergency board meeting, which was just her, me, and technically Vincent, though his lawyer advised him not to attend. We voted to suspend Vincent from all fund operations pending the investigation outcome. I cast my vote without hesitation. The story spread through the quantitative finance community like wildfire. Vincent Taylor, the guy who'd been giving talks about ethical algorithmic trading, the guy who'd written blog posts about fiduciary responsibility, was accused of stealing from his own fund. The hypocrisy made it particularly delicious to the finance gossips. But I wasn't done. I'd saved one final move, the social destruction. I compiled the affair evidence into a separate package, not for law enforcement, they didn't care about that, but for everyone else who needed to know who Vincent really was. I sent the package to 20 people: Vincent's father, his siblings, his former professors at MIT, his professional references, the CEO of the pension fund that had invested with us, and several journalists who covered the finance industry. The package included a cover letter. Vincent Taylor has presented himself as an ethical leader in quantitative finance. The attached evidence shows a different reality. While conducting an affair with our operations manager, who was my girlfriend, Vincent stole over $400,000 from our fund and planned to force me out of the company we built together. I'm sharing this not for sympathy, but because people deserve to know who they're dealing with. Vincent is brilliant with numbers, but completely lacking in character. Anyone considering hiring him, partnering with him, or trusting him should have access to this information. I signed it with my name. I wanted him to know it came from me. The responses started within hours. Vincent's father called him, screaming loud enough that I heard about it from a mutual friend. "How could you do this? How could you shame our family like this?" His former advisor at MIT sent me an email. "I'm deeply disappointed in Vincent. I wrote recommendations for him based on character I clearly misjudged. Thank you for bringing this to light." The pension fund CEO issued a statement withdrawing their investment and stating they'd consider legal action to recover losses. And the journalists, they had a field day. "Romance and embezzlement at Boston Quant Fund" was one headline. "Betrayed. Partner exposes affair and fraud" was another. The stories went into detail about how Vincent had been sleeping with his partner's girlfriend while stealing from their fund. Vincent's reputation was radioactive. No fund would hire him. No investors would trust him. Even if he somehow avoided prison, his career was over. Sophia got hit by the shrapnel. Her name appeared in the articles as the operations manager who conducted an affair with Taylor while employed by the fund. Future employers would Google her and find that. She'd have to explain it in every interview for the rest of her career. I should have felt satisfied, vindicated, triumphant. Instead, I felt empty. By August, Apex Quantitative Capital was in liquidation. Without Vincent's fundraising and with the SEC investigation ongoing, we couldn't sustain operations. I worked with Patricia to return remaining capital to investors and shut down the fund properly. The pension fund lost about 8% of their investment, the money Vincent had stolen plus wind-down costs. Our early investors who'd been with us for years lost nothing because we returned their gains. But the dream was dead. 7 years of work, everything Vincent and I had built together, gone. The SEC charged Vincent with wire fraud, securities fraud, and embezzlement in September. He pled not guilty. His lawyer argued the money transfers were legitimate business expenses. The evidence said otherwise. Sophia took a plea deal. She'd known about the embezzlement, had helped Vincent hide it by manipulating expense reports, and had participated in planning my ouster. In exchange for testifying against Vincent, she got probation and a fine. No prison time. Vincent's trial was scheduled for March 2022. I was the prosecution's star witness. I spent the intervening months rebuilding my life. I moved to a new apartment, couldn't stay in the place where Sophia and I had lived. I threw myself into my personal trading strategy, which continued generating consistent returns. I started consulting for other quantitative funds, helping them build better risk management systems. The work was technically interesting but emotionally hollow. My sister Emma called every week to check on me. "You seem flat," she observed in October, "like you're going through the motions." "I'm fine." "You're not fine. You just destroyed your best friend and your girlfriend and your company. You're not fine." "They destroyed themselves. I just documented it." "Ethan, have you talked to anyone? A therapist? This is traumatic." "I don't need therapy. I need to rebuild." Rebuilding isn't the same as healing. I didn't want to heal. Healing meant processing emotions, and emotions were dangerous. Anger would make me sloppy. Sadness would make me weak. I'd learned to shut them down, to operate purely on logic and discipline. It worked for trading. It worked for everything else too. In December, Vincent's lawyer called me. "My client wants to meet with you. The record. Just the two of you." "Why would I do that?" "Because despite everything, you were friends for 10 years. He wants to explain, to apologize, to ask for your understanding before the trial." "Tell him no." "Mr. Ward, I know you're angry." "I'm not angry. I'm indifferent. Vincent made choices that destroyed everything we built. He's facing the consequences. There's nothing to discuss. He's willing to plead guilty if you'll speak on his behalf at sentencing. Ask for leniency." "Absolutely not. You'd rather see him go to prison for years than accept an apology?" "I'd rather see justice done. Vincent stole from teachers and nurses and firefighters who trusted us with their retirement savings. He deserves whatever sentence the law provides." The lawyer hung up. I went back to work. Vincent went to trial in March 2022. The prosecution methodically presented the evidence I'd compiled: bank records, email exchanges, testimony from forensic accountants. Sophia's testimony about how Vincent had manipulated her into helping hide the transfers. I testified for 6 hours. The defense attorney tried to paint me as vengeful, obsessed, a spurned friend seeking revenge instead of justice. "Isn't it true, Mr. Ward, that you orchestrated this entire prosecution out of anger over an affair?" "No," I said calmly. "I reported crimes to the appropriate authorities because it was my legal and ethical obligation as a fiduciary. But you also sent defamatory materials about Mr. Taylor's personal life to journalists and business contacts. That sounds like revenge, not ethics. I shared factual information about Vincent's character with people who had the right to know. Everything in those materials was true and documented. You destroyed his reputation. He destroyed his reputation. I just made sure people knew about it. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Vincent got 6 years in federal prison. He'd serve at least 4 with good behavior. His financial penalties exceeded $2 million. He'd be bankrupt. I sat in the courtroom when the sentence was read. Vincent looked at me across the room. His face was hollow, defeated, aged 10 years in 12 months. He mouthed something that looked like, "I'm sorry." I looked away. Outside the courthouse, reporters asked if I was satisfied with the verdict. "Justice was served," I said. "That's all that matters." "What's next for you?" "Building something new." That night I sat in my apartment with a bottle of scotch and finally let myself feel everything I'd been suppressing for 9 months. I cried, not dignified tears, ugly, wrenching sobs that came from somewhere deep and damaged. I cried for the friendship I'd lost, the love that had been a lie, the company we'd destroyed, the innocence I'd shed when I became someone capable of systematic revenge I'd won. Vincent was in prison. Sophia's career was ruined. I'd protected our investors and upheld my ethical obligations, but victory felt like ashes. The person I'd been, the kid from Sacramento who believed in loyalty and brotherhood and building something meaningful with people you trusted, that person was dead. In his place was someone harder, colder, someone who understood that trust was a liability and emotion was a weakness to exploit. I'd become the kind of person Vincent probably was all along, and I hated it. The months after the trial was strange. I was technically successful. My personal trading strategy was generating over $30,000 per month. I had consulting contracts with 3 major funds. I'd been approached about starting a new quantitative firm with a different partner. But success felt hollow when I couldn't share it with anyone. I dated occasionally, smart, attractive women who seemed interested in the successful quantitative trader who'd exposed a high-profile fraud. But every relationship felt transactional. I couldn't trust anyone enough to let them close. The moment someone tried to get past my defenses, I'd find reasons to end things. "You're protecting yourself," my therapist said. I'd finally started seeing someone after my sister staged an intervention. Dr. Sarah Mitchell was a clinical psychologist who specialized in trauma and betrayal. She was patient with my resistance and clinical enough that I could pretend our sessions were analytical exercises instead of emotional excavations. "Of course I'm protecting myself," I replied. "That's rational, given what happened." "Rational doesn't mean healthy. You built walls so high that no one can reach you, not even people who genuinely care about you." "The last people who I thought genuinely cared about me were planning to destroy me. Forgive me for being cautious." "Ethan, what Vincent and Sophia did was terrible, unforgivable even, but your response, the systematic destruction, the revenge, that changed you too. You became someone capable of total ruthlessness." "I did what I had to do." "Did you? Or did
You do what felt satisfying in the moment, but left you more damaged than the betrayal itself. I didn't answer. I didn't want to think about it. In October 2022, 18 months after Vincent went to prison, I got a letter from him. It had been screened by prison officials and forwarded to my attorney, who called to ask if I wanted to read it. Probably just more manipulation, my lawyer said. Classic sociopath behavior. They apologize when it serves them. Send it to me anyway. The letter arrived 2 days later. 3 pages, handwritten. Ethan, I know you probably hate me. I know you have every right to. I've had a lot of time to think about what I did, and I understand now how completely I betrayed you. Not just the money, though, that was inexcusable. Not just Sophia, though, that was unforgivable. But the fundamental violation of everything we built together. You trusted me. You believed in me. We were supposed to be brothers. And I threw that away for money and ego and a
relationship that imploded the moment consequences arrived. Sophia and I haven't spoken since the trial. Whatever we had was built on lies and wouldn't survive reality. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want you to know that you were right about everything, about the responsibility we owed to investors, about the importance of ethics over profit, about building systems that couldn't fail. You were the better man, the better partner, the better person. I was too arrogant to see it until I lost everything. Prison is brutal, but it's giving me time to understand who I became. I convinced myself that you were holding back the fund, that your caution was weakness, that I could do better without you. I was wrong. The fund succeeded because of your discipline, your integrity, your insistence on doing things right. Without you, it was just my ambition and my ego, and those things destroyed everything. I know you probably think this letter is manipulation. Another con from a con man. Maybe it is, and I just can't see it. But I needed to tell you that you were my best friend, the only person who really understood me. And I destroyed that because I wasn't strong enough to be the person you deserved as a partner. I'm sorry, Ethan, for all of it. I hope you build something amazing without me. You always were the genius. I was just good at selling. Vincent. I read the letter 3 times. Then I put it in a drawer and didn't look at it again for months. Was it genuine? Was it manipulation? Did it matter? Vincent had stolen from our investors, betrayed our friendship, and tried to destroy my stake in what we'd built. The fact that he felt bad about it now didn't change what he'd done. The fact that prison had given him perspective didn't undo the damage. But it didn't give me the satisfaction I expected either. I thought I'd feel vindicated reading his confession. Instead, I just felt tired. "Do you think you'll ever forgive him?" Dr. Mitchell asked in our next session. No. Why not? Because forgiveness implies there's a path back to trust. There isn't. Vincent proved he's capable of sustained, premeditated betrayal. That's not a mistake. That's character. Forgiveness isn't about trust, Ethan. It's about letting go of the anger so it doesn't poison you. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just done. Are you? Because you haven't built any deep relationships since the betrayal. You don't trust anyone. You've optimized your life for independence and isolation. That sounds like you're still letting Vincent and Sophia control you. That hit harder than I wanted to admit. I spent the next few months trying to open up, dating more seriously, accepting invitations to social events instead of hiding in work, letting my guard down incrementally with people who seemed trustworthy. It was exhausting. Every vulnerability felt dangerous. Every moment of closeness triggered anxiety about when the betrayal would come. But slowly, incrementally, I started to heal. In March 2023, 2 years after Vincent's sentencing, I launched a new quantitative fund. I called it Ward Capital Management. No partners, no co-founders, just me and a small team of employees I kept at professional distance. The fund's operating principles were engraved on a plaque in my office. Trust, but verify ethics over profit transparency. Always no shortcuts. Protect investor capital like it's your own family's future. The fund grew steadily. By the end of 2023, we were managing $25 million. By mid-2024, over $50 million. The returns were solid, not spectacular, but consistent and sustainable. I built a reputation as someone who prioritized risk management and integrity over flashy performance. I was successful again, but it felt different than Apex had. Lonelier, more careful, built on different foundations. Emma visited me in December 2024. We had dinner at a small Italian restaurant near my apartment. "You seem better," she said, "more like yourself." Which self? The naive kid who believed in friendship? Or the cynical asshole who destroyed everyone who betrayed him? Neither. Something in between. Someone who's been through hell and came out wiser. Wiser feels like a euphemism for broken. "You're not broken, Ethan. You're careful. There's a difference." Is there? Because I can't trust anyone anymore. I can't let people close. Every relationship feels like a potential threat. You let me close. You let Dr. Mitchell close. You're letting yourself heal even if it's slow. It doesn't feel like healing. It feels like management, like I'm running risk algorithms on human relationships. Emma smiled sadly. That's very you. But maybe that's okay. Maybe you don't have to become the person you were before. Maybe you become someone new, someone who's been betrayed but didn't let it destroy his capacity for connection. I'm not sure I have that capacity anymore. You do, you're just scared to use it. She was right. I was terrified. In January 2025, I got an email from Patricia Rodriguez, our former CCO at Apex. "Ethan, I hope this message finds you well. I wanted to let you know that I've been approached by several of Apex's former investors who are interested in starting a new fund with you as the portfolio manager. They remember the returns you generated and they trust your integrity after how you handled the Vincent situation. If you're interested, I'd be happy to coordinate a discussion. Best, Patricia." The old Ethan would have jumped at this, a chance to rebuild what Vincent destroyed, to prove that Apex's success had been my algorithms and my discipline, not Vincent's charisma. But I sat with the email for a week before responding. Did I want to rebuild Apex, or did I want to build something new, something that wasn't haunted by betrayal and revenge? I talked it through with Dr. Mitchell. "What does your gut tell you?" she asked. "My gut is broken. It told me to trust Vincent." "Your gut told..."
You something was wrong in the months before you discovered the betrayal. You ignored it because you didn't want to believe it. That's different than your gut being wrong. So, you're saying I should trust my instincts? I'm saying you should listen to yourself. What do you actually want? Not what's rational or optimal or strategically smart. What would make you happy? I thought about it for a long time. I want to build something good, I said, finally. Something that helps people, not just makes money. I want to feel like the work matters. Then do that, I replied to Patricia. Thank you for thinking of me. I'm honored that former investors would trust me again. But I'm not interested in rebuilding Apex. I'm building something different now, something that prioritizes sustainability and ethics over growth. If those investors want to participate in that, I'd welcome their capital. But I'm not chasing size or prestige anymore, just doing good work with good people, Patricia wrote.
Back. I completely understand, and I think several of them will be very interested in that vision. Let's set up a call. By March 2025, Ward Capital had raised an additional $30 million from former Apex investors. But the terms were different. Lower fees, greater transparency, strict ethical guidelines, compensation tied to long-term results, not short-term performance. I hired carefully, no rock stars, no cowboys, people who valued stability and integrity over ego and ambition. I built systems with redundant checks and balances so no single person could make the kind of mistakes Vincent had made. And slowly, I started to trust again. Not naively, I'd never be naive again, but carefully, intentionally, with eyes wide open about the risks. In June 2025, I was invited to speak at an MIT finance conference about risk management in quantitative funds. I almost declined. The memory of walking those halls with Vincent was still painful. But Emma convinced me to go. You can't avoid everything that reminds you of the past. At some point, you have to integrate it instead of running from it. The talk went well. I focused on building organizational systems that prevent internal fraud. I talked about culture and incentives and the importance of making ethics profitable. People seemed genuinely interested. Afterward, a young woman approached me. She was maybe 23, nervous, carrying a worn notebook. Mr. Ward, I'm Julia. I'm a first-year master's student here. I just wanted to say, your story inspired me. Not the revenge part, the integrity part, the way you put investor protection ahead of your own interests. Thank you, I said, though I'm not sure I deserve credit for doing what was legally required. You'd be surprised how many people don't. My dad lost his retirement savings in 2008 because his fund manager was more interested in fees than fiduciary duty. What you did, reporting Vincent, protecting the investors, that mattered. It matters to
People like my dad who don't have the power to protect themselves. Something in my chest loosened. A knot I hadn't realized was there. That means a lot, I said. Truly. Can I ask you something? Do you regret it? The revenge, going so hard against Vincent? I thought about it carefully. I regret the person I had to become to do it. I regret the damage to myself, but I don't regret protecting the investors or ensuring Vincent faced consequences. Those were necessary. What's the difference? The difference is I could have done what was necessary without making it personal. I could have reported the crimes and let the system handle it. Instead, I made it my mission to destroy him completely. That was about my anger, not justice. And anger is a poison. It destroys the vessel that carries it. Julia nodded slowly. I think I understand. Thank you for being honest. After she left, I stood in the MIT hallway where Vincent and I had first met 11 years ago. Two kids from regular families, ambitious and scared and full of dreams about building something meaningful. We'd built it, and then we destroyed it. And now I was building something new from the rubble. I thought about Vincent in prison, 18 months into a 6-year sentence. Was he really sorry? Had he really changed? It didn't matter. His apology couldn't undo what he'd done. My forgiveness couldn't give him back what he'd lost. But maybe we could both move forward differently. He could become someone better than who he'd been. I could become someone who wasn't defined by what he'd done to me. That evening, I did something I hadn't done since the trial. I wrote Vincent a letter. Vincent, I received your letter from prison. I didn't respond because I didn't know what to say. I'm still not sure I do. You were right about some things in your letter. You did betray me. You did destroy our friendship. You did prove yourself capable of sustained deception in pursuit of selfish goals. Those
things are true and can't be undone. But I want you to know something too. The person I became in pursuit of revenge wasn't much better than the person you became in pursuit of money and power. I made destroying you my mission. I was thorough, methodical, and ruthless. I cost you your freedom, your career, your reputation, and your relationships. Some of that was necessary. You committed crimes and needed to face consequences, but some of it was personal, vindictive, excessive. I don't regret protecting our investors. I don't regret reporting your crimes, but I do regret the satisfaction I took in watching everything collapse around you. I became someone I don't particularly like. Someone capable of calculated cruelty. That's on me, not you. I'm not writing to forgive you. I don't know if I'll ever be able to do that. What you did was too fundamental a betrayal of everything I valued, but I wanted you to know that I understand how people become versions of themselves they never
intended. We both did that. You became the person who'd steal and betray. I became the person who'd destroy methodically and without mercy. Neither of us is that person we were in the MIT library in 2014. Those kids are gone. Maybe that's okay. Maybe we both become something different now. I hope you use your time in prison to actually become the person you claim to want to be. Not because I've forgiven you or because we'll ever be friends again, but because the world has enough people who let their worst impulses define them. Try to be better than that. I'm trying to be better than that too, Ethan. I mailed the letter the next day. I didn't expect a response. I didn't need one. Writing it helped me understand something Dr. Mitchell had been trying to tell me for months. Revenge had given me justice, but not healing. Destruction had given me vindication, but not peace. I'd won the battle, but lost parts of myself in the process. Now I had to figure out how to get those parts back. Or
maybe build new ones. Ones that were wiser, more careful, but still capable of connection and trust. It's February 2026 now. Almost 2 years since Vincent's sentencing. 4 years since I discovered the betrayal. Ward Capital manages $73 million. We're profitable, stable, ethical. I have a team of 8 people who seem to genuinely respect me and each other. No drama, no betrayals, no crises. It's boring in the best possible way. I'm dating someone. Her name is Rebecca. She's a pediatrician, completely outside the finance world, which feels healthy. She knows about Vincent and Sophia. I told her on our third date because I didn't want it to be a secret that could explode later. She listened without judgment and then said, "That sounds really painful. I'm sorry you went through it. Not you should forgive him. Not you're better off without them. Just acknowledgement of the pain." It meant more than she probably knew. We've been together 6 months. It's careful and slow. I'm still learning to trust. But she's patient with my boundaries and I'm working on lowering them incrementally. Emma says I seem lighter, like you're not carrying as much weight. Maybe she's right. The photograph of Vincent and me on the yacht is still in my desk drawer, still face down, but I don't turn it over and stare at it anymore. I don't need to remember who we were. I'm too busy building who I'm becoming. Last week I got word that Vincent is up for parole review in 18 months. He's been a model prisoner, completed educational programs, shown genuine rehabilitation according to the prison psychologist. His lawyer thinks he has a good chance at early release. The old me would have written letters to the parole board detailing why he deserves every second of his sentence. The new me didn't do anything. What happens to Vincent now is between him and the justice system. I don't need to be part of it. Dr. Mitchell asked what I felt when I heard about the parole possibility. "Nothing much," I said. Hope that he actually changed, I guess. Doubt that he did. Mostly just indifference. "That's growth," she said. "Indifference means you've moved on. The opposite of love isn't hate, Ethan. It's not caring either way." I thought the opposite of love was betrayal. No, betrayal is what happens when love is violated, but the opposite of love is when it doesn't matter anymore. When you're genuinely disinterested in the person who hurt you. I think I'm getting there. Not completely. There are still nights when I lie awake remembering every detail of the betrayal, every moment I missed the signs, every instance where I was too trusting or too blind. But those nights are rarer now. Most of the time, I'm just living my life. Building good algorithms, managing my fund responsibly, dating Rebecca, seeing my sister, doing the work to become someone I can respect again. That photograph is still in my drawer. Maybe someday I'll throw it away, or maybe I'll keep it as a reminder of who I was and who I'm trying not to be again. A man who believed in brotherhood, a man who was betrayed, a man who became something he didn't recognize in pursuit of revenge. And now, hopefully, a man who's learning to trust again without being naive, to protect himself without being closed, to remember the past without being imprisoned by it. Vincent and Sophia taught me that people are capable of extraordinary betrayal, but Rebecca and Emma and Dr. Mitchell and my team at Ward Capital are teaching me that people are also capable of extraordinary kindness, of patience, of earning trust slowly and honoring it carefully. I don't know if I'll ever be the person I was before, the kid from Sacramento who believed in loyalty and brotherhood without reservation. That person died with Apex Quantitative Capital. But maybe that's okay. Maybe the person I'm becoming is better, wiser, more careful, still capable of connection, but with eyes wide open, still willing to trust, but
with systems in place to verify. The algorithm of ruin destroyed Vincent, but it also destroyed the naive version of me. And from those ashes, I'm building something new, something more sustainable, something that might actually last. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. What they don't tell you is that after you eat it, you're still hungry. still empty, still searching for something that will actually satisfy. I'm learning that satisfaction doesn't come from destroying your enemies. It comes from building a life you're proud of, from becoming a person you can respect, from protecting the things that matter and letting go of the things that don't. Vincent and Sophia don't matter anymore. Ward Capital matters. Rebecca matters. The investors who trust me with their savings matter. The integrity I'm rebuilding matters. And someday, maybe someday, I'll matter to myself again too. Not as the guy who exposed a fraud, not as the guy who got revenge, just as Ethan, someone trying to.
Do good work and build good relationships and be worthy of the trust people place in him. That's the real victory. Not Vincent in prison, not Sophia's ruined career, but me slowly becoming whole again. I'm not there yet, but I'm getting closer. And that's enough.